Life sucks. I didn't remember the last time when it hadn't mocked me right on my face in the worst way possible. Like right now, when I was focusing less on the delicious meal served on the table and more on hiding the holes in my rag t-shirt. On the other hand, I was trying to ignore my frizzy, greasy hair. It was fine until they were tied in a bun, but me being me, I decided to open them to look cute. Needless to say, I was looking harmless. The only difference between me and a person inside the psychic ward was that I was outside. Having dinner with all so rich looking people felt like I was adopted and sponsored by them. But the worst part was even more embarrassing. Park Jimin, my brother's hot and handsome best friend, decided to show up for dinner tonight. With a silk white button up shirt and black trousers that accentuated his butt, he looked like a model straight out of a magazine cover. While I was still struggling to look presentable, or should I say human instead of an abandoned street cat. Mom, that's too much. I can't eat all that. I lifted my gaze to witness my mother filling his bowl with a mountain of rice. Again. Oh dear, you have visited us after a long time. Eat up. She patted his shoulder with an affectionate smile. Point to be noted. She never gave us that kind of smile ever. Jimin had been my brother's best friend for over 10 years now. He was like a third child to my parents and their favorite one. He used to visit our home on daily basis until 3 years ago when he joined his father's business. Still, he took time to visit us at least twice a week. It was his family too, after all. How sweet, right? Not for me. I appreciated his bonding with my family, but I always prayed to all the gods of the heavens to not let the thought of considering me a little sister ever cross his mind. I mean, nobody would like their crush, the hot and handsome one, patting their head and saying, I'm so proud of you, my sweet little sister. Yuck, no way. Jimin, you are a good friend of Youngie. Ask him to find a nice girl for himself and settle down in life. Work ain't gonna provide him the peace a soulmate will. I heard my brother letting out a groan beside me. I bit my lower lip to hold back my laughter. Who would want to marry this grumpy ass grandpa? I said it as quietly as possible, just a murmur, but my brother heard it. He threw gloves at me, but did I care? Not at all. I was enjoying his disheveled state a little too much. Dad, I think you shouldn't rush him in this matter. Let him take his time. Better marry late and be happy than marry early and regret it forever. Damn it, how smart and thoughtful. I could feel my face heating up at his reply. Was there need for an explanation as to why I fell for him? The question was who wouldn't? He was perfect in all the ways. What about you, Jimin? Do you have a girlfriend? My heart pegged its pace at this question. I finally lifted my gaze to his beautiful face. Even after working the whole day, he still managed to look effortlessly breathtaking. He stared at my mother in silence. Every second that passed after that made me grip the spoon tighter. I needed to know if he had someone else in his life. I was excited, yet deep down, scared to have my heart broken. Then, ever so slowly, he shook his head. My grip on the spoon loosened, and I drew out a breath I was unknowingly holding. The path was clear. Now, all I had to do was to summon some courage and walk on it. But it seemed like my parents weren't done yet. They exchanged a look and set their spoons down. Okay, now this was getting serious. What could be the best possibilities for their serious stance? They found a potential match for my brother and wanted him to settle down. For that, they wanted to join hands with Jimin and let him convince Yoongi, or they might want Jimin to find the one for him. There were many possibilities, many reasons for them to bring up the topic of their love life during dinner, but none. I said not even one could prepare me for what they uttered next. You see, you both have been friends for a decade. You both were and are always together. We have never seen you with other friends, nor did you guys ever had a lady love in your life, so he trailed off and glanced at my mother as if asking her to take the lead now. On cue, my mother cleared her throat and looked between Jimin and Yoongi. So, is there a possibility that you guys are into each other? Damn, my brother choked on air. Jimin spat out the water he took a sip of, and I sat numb on my spot. Don't get us wrong, we are very modern and open minded. We don't mind it. In fact, we would embrace it with open arms if you both want to be together and marry. I flinched when my brother slammed his hands on the table. He stood up with a jerk, his chair scraping against the floor. I'm done with you guys. And then he stormed off. I watched as he climbed the stairs and disappeared into his room. The sound of the door slamming shut echoed through the house, emphasizing even more on what had transpired between my parents and him. My parents' eyes turned toward Jimin. He squirmed in his seat, looking utterly uncomfortable. He dabbed a tissue on his mouth, wiping off the water, and stood up with an awkward smile. Oh, I need to be somewhere. I'll take my leave. And there is nothing that's sort of going on between us. We are just friends, best buddies. He bowed politely and dashed out as if his bottom was on fire. I gaped at the closed door where Jimin had disappeared from a few moments ago. The wheels in my brain rolled at high speed, and I imagined my brother and Jimin snuggling in each other's arms, getting all cuddly and mushy. Then I shook it off because yikes, my brother and Jimin together in a romantic way, my brother as my co-wife. I closed my eyes before my imagination could run even wilder. When I opened my eyes, I was met with my parents staring at me. It wasn't a normal kind of look, it was a look that said, run or else you will be the next victim of their made up theories. I'll have my dinner in my room. Then I eloped with a glass of water and my dinner plate. I didn't stop until I was inside my room and locked it from inside. Can you stop laughing at me now? It's not that funny. I repeated the same thing a third time in the last 10 minutes during a call with my crackhead best friend Meena. First, she laughed at my disheveled state. Second, at the conversation between my parents and my brother, and now at me again for fleeing from there like a thief. Fine, fine, I won't laugh now, she assured me, but who was she kidding? I could practically picture her shoulders shaking, eyes watering, and face turning red as she laughed, covering her mouth. I let her be for a few moments to sober up as I plopped on the bed on my stomach and stared at the picture of my 17th birthday. I was standing at the center with Yoongi and Jimin on either side of me. Girl, I don't think I have a crush on Jimin. I blurted out before I could second guess myself. Meena was stunned into pin drop silence. She was shocked. You mean you don't have a crush on the guy you had spent drooling on for like 7 years? I slapped a hand on my forehead. Here came the impulsive Meena. I mean, it is no longer a sweet, innocent crush. I think I might have gained some feelings for him. She fell silent again. Earlier she wouldn't stop and now she wouldn't speak. Oh, oh, that was all that I got for pouring my heart in front of her. I sighed and wondered in what absence of sanity I befriended her. Meena, you doofus, I said I like Jimin and all you have got to say is, oh, are you high on my brother's dream again? I snapped and she winced like she had been yelled at in her ear. I was just processing the information, so I could hear the rustling of sheets. I knew she was getting comfy in her bed to listen to the tea. Perks of being best friends. You like Jimin? Then go tell him. I laughed, throwing my head back, and I swore I had never heard the fakest laugh as mine. Oh wow, why haven't I thought of it, Meena? You're a genius. You know what? Apply for the presidential election next time. I'm rooting for you. Not the sarcasm. You don't have to be sarcastic. I wasn't suggesting, but rather motivating you. If you like him, tell him, or at least tell your brother. I hated it when she made sense. Where was my blind leading another blind best friend? I will, when you will tell my brother that you are head over heels for him. We are gonna do this together. I smirked to myself. Gotcha, baby. We kissed. My smirk dropped instantly. The color from my face drained into paleness. She did not just say what I heard her say, right? I took a few moments to gather my sane thoughts before I broke into fits of laughter. This was the best and perfect solution. When you are confused and don't know how to react, just laugh. Laugh like you have chugged down a few shots of strong and neat whiskey. Meena, either there is a cross connection or I am hearing things. I snickered again, hoping, praying she would laugh along with me, but she remained silent, the kind of silent when she was damn serious. Ryan, we really kissed. I jolted up. I was on my toes, pacing back and forth around my room as I patiently or impatiently waited her to spill the beans. My dad gave me a folder of documents to hand over to your brother. When I got into his office, a girl was clinging to him. I got jealous and blurted out my feelings for him. The next moment, he pounced on me. So yeah, he's taking me out on a lunch date tomorrow. I froze. My feet stopped midway. I was shocked to my core that I was staring into the space with my jaw almost touching my knees. What in the fictional romance was that? Did you die? I inhaled a sharp breath and then I took off. I screamed in excitement, hopping here and there. I tripped and fell flat on my butt, but I was too happy to care about my big round ass. Why didn't you tell me earlier, huh? Were you planning to tell me after getting pregnant? I was practically screaming at my phone at this point. My pot bellied neighbor might be cursing the hell out of me, but I didn't care. I'm still soaking it in. It feels like a dream. She squealed from the other side and I joined in. Wow. So my childhood best friend would marry that grumpy ass grandpa. It's your time to shine. Go and tell your brother about your feelings. And do not, I repeat, do not call me again unless you are taking your last breath. I got a dream about the dreamy kiss and blush all night. Might as well call your brother. She hung up without waiting for my reply. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. Rag t-shirt, worn out shorts, messy hair and a wide grin on my lips. A knife in my hand and I would resemble a serial killer from a movie. My best friend's love life had picked a track and now it was my time to confess my feelings to Jimin. A ping from my phone interrupted my thoughts. I glanced at it to find a text from Meena. You remember we used to place our shoes on our seats during dance class so that no one sat on them? Jimin is the perfect guy, Ryan. Go and place your shoes before someone else does. Huh? Why would someone want to place their shoes on Jimin? There's a damn shoe rack for that. I quickly typed it and pressed send. A series of curses came as a reply before she went offline. I chuckled and threw my phone on the bed. Before someone else places their shoes on him. I stood there letting the silence soak the fear deeper into me and then, with great determination, I marched towards my brother's room. All my determination and courage went down the drain during the 10-step walk from my room to my brother's room. I shifted on my feet, contemplating whether to walk in or take a clown walk back to my room. Enough, Ryan. You can't keep on living like this. It's now or never. That was a very cringe speech, I know, but anything was welcome that could help me push my feet forward into his room. Finally, I knocked on the door and peeked my head inside. My brother was staring right at me. I grinned and stepped inside. What do you want? Rude, but nothing that I wasn't used to. He had always been like a no-nonsense, straight to the point person. Well, hello to you too, brother. My grin widened until my face morphed into two halves. I looked around his dimly lit room. The same old dull room with dark and dull curtains and the same centuries-old art pieces here and there. Nothing had changed. It gave the typical Minyongi vibes. In the midst of all, he sat on one of the two single leather couches set at one corner of the room. He was staring at me, gaze boring right through my soul as if he were trying to read through my stance. I smiled and walked over to him. So, how have you been? I couldn't finish speaking before he interrupted me. My wallet is in the bedside drawer. I froze in the squatted position with one part on the bouncy leather couch and other still hanging mid-air. I gawked at him in disbelief. Did he mean I was after his money? Well, technically I was, but that was a thing to discuss some other day. There was no need for him to rub it on my face. I bit back a sharp retort that swam on my tongue. I knew that this would lead to a big dramatic fight that would end in me with a bleeding nose and bushy hair and him with a ripped off shirt and scratched neck. Instead, I gave him a tight-lipped smile and sat comfortably. I blinked innocently, giving him a needy little sister look. Oppa, I need to tell you something. This made him turn towards me. Me calling him Oppa was a sign for him to turn into his protective older brother mode. His eyes softened visibly. His whole attention was directed at me now. You know, you and Jimin have been friends for years. He's a great guy. He's always there for you no matter day or night. I took a deep breath before dropping the bomb on him. I like him, bro. I have developed feelings for him. When and how, I have no idea. But I truly like him a lot. I blurted it all out in a single breath and instantly felt lighter. The tension seemed to be relieved from my heart. I could breathe freely now. I looked at him, only to find him frozen in shock. Did I speak a lot? Was it too much for him? He didn't say a single word. Huh? I heard a familiar voice, but it wasn't of my brother. He was frozen in time, barely breathing at that moment. It was coming from a device. His mobile, that was placed on the table, was screen brightened and Jimin's name appeared on it. My heart stopped and eyes widened in absolute horror. He was on a call with Jimin from the beginning. Jimin had heard it all, from our bickering to the confession. Well, there was a pin drop silence in the room. Yoongi stared at me. I stared at the phone, and I had no idea what Jimin was staring at. A few moments into that awkward silence, and Jimin hung up. I replayed the entire conversation in my head and then I bolted. From his room, down the hallway, and my room. I didn't stop until I slumped in my bed with my head buried in the piles of pillows. I groaned against the pillows, thrashing my limbs around like a fish out of water. I messed up. I messed it all up. Meena, I stared up and dialed her number with my trembling hands, and obviously she didn't pick up. She had warned me about it. What did I do? How did I screw it all so bad? I buried my face in my palms, regretting my very existence. Only if the earth could split and swallow me whole. If things got worse from here, I would not only have my heart broken but also ruin my brother's years long friendship. Gosh, what kind of maze I was stuck in. I sat on the high stool, chewing on a dry bread slice. I stared at it, examining its stiff texture, and wondered if it was expired. I so much wanted it to be expired so that I would fall ill and my brother would finally talk to me. It had been 3 days since that night, and it already felt like centuries had passed. My parents were out of the town. My brother wasn't talking to me. He wasn't much of a talker, but he never ever ignored me. Jimin hadn't shown up in our house after that night. I would lie if I said this didn't hurt me. It stung me in a way that had my eyes watering almost instantly, like right now. This very thought made my eyes welled up with tears. Mina was the only support I had. I had cried rivers in front of her about Jimin's absence, Yoongi's ignorance, and the pain I had been carrying inside me. More than my heartbreak, I was scared of becoming the reason for ruining their friendship, and my fears were slowly overpowering me because I hadn't seen or heard my brother talking to Jimin for once. Why am I crying like a toddler? Stop it! I harshly wiped my tears, but they just wouldn't stop. From the corner of my eye, I saw Yoongi descending the stairs and marching towards the front door. He looked pissed. My brother was usually calm and composed. He rarely got angry, but if he looked like he was about to beat someone up, someone else was gonna get whooped really bad. Yoongi pressed the door but rather impatiently. He was getting more desperate and even more angry with each passing moment. Jimin opened the door after what felt like an eternity. Yoongi gave him a pointed look and pushed past him as if he owned that place. He slumped on the couch and glared at Jimin, while Jimin tried his best to avoid his gaze. A few moments passed in silence. When Jimin didn't speak, nor did he make a move to sit with him, Yoongi's patience snapped. "Where is your phone?" Jimin gulped as if deer caught in the headlights and jutted his chin towards his phone, which lay abandoned on the couch. Grabbing it, Yoongi stared at it for a moment before flung it to the nearby wall with full force. Jimin gasped, watching his phone crumbling into pieces. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he barked, his angry glare fixed at Yoongi, who looked equally pissed. "That device was useless for you anyway because you weren't picking up my calls or replying to any of my texts from 3 days. He mocked, sarcasm laced his tone. Jimin clenched his jaw and looked away. "Avoiding my eyes ain't gonna help you escape from me. Now come here and sit your ass down. We need to talk." The seriousness in Yoongi's tone had Jimin's feet moving on their own. It was around dinner time when Yoongi stepped into the house with Jimin. Vine sat on the couch, staring blankly at the TV screen. Sadness could be seen in her dull expression. She glanced at them once and quietly made her way towards the stairs. No word, no smile, not even a polite nod of acknowledgement. Just a glance and she was gone. Yoongi looked at Jimin and gestured him towards the stairs. "Get to work, Park, and whatever I told you in the noon, keep that in mind." Jimin nodded and turned his feet in the direction where Vine went. When he was ascending the stairs, the conversation he had with Yoongi earlier at his home replayed in his mind. "Let's stop pretending that the call didn't happen, alright? You and I both heard what my sister had to say." Jimin sighed and dropped his gaze to his hands placed in his lap. A lot was going on in his head. He hadn't slept for the last 3 days. He hadn't eaten properly. He couldn't focus on his work. He was devastated. "Look, I won't beat around the bush and come straight to my point. Do you like my sister?" Jimin's hands flustered in a ball. His jaw ticked as he tried to contain his emotions. "Speak up before it gets too late. There are a lot of guys standing in line for her. I hope you know that," he said, observing every little shift and twitch in Jimin's expression. He knew his restraint was breaking. A little push and Jimin would be screaming his feelings out. Yoongi did what a wise person would do: strike the iron when it was burning hot. Mom and Dad have been getting many proposals for her. Keep your mouth sealed and watch a man embrace her who is not you. The final blow, and Jimin was hovering over Yoongi, holding his collar. His eyes blazing with rage and his body burning with an intensity that could melt a stone with a mere touch. "I love her. I have been in love with her for years, but I was holding back because of you. I didn't want to ruin our friendship. That's why I kept my feelings to myself and kept pretending like I wasn't dying to hold her whenever she was around." He panted like an angry bull and left his collar with a jerk. I stood upright, staring into space as if weaving the memories that nobody had any idea about, the whispers of secrets he never let anyone know. I was happy, elated to know she wished the same for me, but I am a coward. I didn't want to lose a brother-like friend for my feelings. You were in my life before her, and if you came here to ask me to stay away from your sister, I will. Yoongi rolled his eyes and lay back on the couch. I'm too sober for this unreasonable dramatic bullshit. Bring me a glass of whiskey. Neat, no water. Jimin turned to glare at him. Here he was devastated, sharing his miseries with him, and he needed a whiskey, and that too at the odd hours of the day. It's 2 p.m. for God's sake. Respect the hours of sun and spare the world from your drunken sass. His glare didn't falter for a moment as he sarcastically uttered those words. On second thought, bring 2 bottles of whiskey. You need alcohol in your system for your dumb brain to function properly. He waved a dismissive hand at Jimin and scrolled through his phone like it wasn't a big deal. I'm gonna call the cops on you for trespassing my property and causing harm to my personal assets. He threatened when he had enough of typical Min Yoongi attitude. Okay, wake me up when they come. I'll take a nap until then. He put his phone down and closed his eyes. Jimin sighed in defeat and made his way towards the bar area to make a drink for Yoongi and himself. Once they were settled across each other with one shot down their throat, they held intense eye contact. Yoongi leaned closer, daring him to look away. Listen here, you short moron. I don't care how long we have been friends for. The moment you hurt my sister or make her cry, I'll personally look after the arrangements for your funeral. First of all, we are of the same height, so same to you, short moron. Second of all, why would I hurt the one I love? He halted when realization dawned upon him. You mean you don't mind me hitting on your sister? I can finally get my girl? God damn it. He ran a hand through his hair, struggling to handle the happiness. His heart was having its very own rock concert. His lips parted in a wide, excited grin that he was trying his best to hold back. All the dreams he had seen of wine seemed to be coming true soon. Don't make a face like that. You look like a needy teenager high on hormones. Also, he slid his empty glass towards him, the base of it scraping against the wooden surface of the coffee table. Make me one more and add extra ice. Jimmy knew faster than ever. He made a quick drink for him, adding extra ice of his liking. You could have come sooner, you know. What was the need of tormenting me for 3 days? Yoongi took a sip of his drink and raised an eyebrow. I did try to reach out. You would have known if you had replied to my calls or seen my texts. I hadn't even talked to my sister because I had no answers to her questions. All because of you and your stupid brain. Jimin smiled sheepishly. Though a little late, at least things settled down. There was no room for doubt. Jimin had both permission and a golden chance to win her over, and he wouldn't miss it. Jimin found himself at the threshold of the terrace, looking at Ryan. She was staring at the sky. For her, it looked gloomier than ever, but for Jimin, it could not have looked more beautiful. The emotions were coming from the things clouding their heads. He was happy, she was sad. He was jumping in excitement, she was crying in agony. But there was one common thing. They both were longing for each other. They were mindlessly, effortlessly in love with each other. They wanted to hold each other and never let go. Jimmy stepped further and stood beside her, though his hands itched to grab her and hide her deep in his arms. He kept his intrusive thoughts in check for a while. Hey, he whispered, almost breathlessly. She flinched as if coming out of a daze and snapped her head towards him. She looked like an orange cat caught in the act. This caused a smile to break on Jimmy's lips. Wyatt's heart sank further as she overanalyzed the situation. His polite smile meant he was there to reject her politely. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could utter one word, Wyan held out her hand, rendering him silent. I know you are here to tell me that you see me as a little sister of your best friend, that you never saw me with those eyes, and that I deserve better. She halted for a moment to take a breath and then looked away. You don't have to go through all this formality, I understand, and you don't have to feel guilty for not reciprocating my feelings. It's okay, not a big deal. Jimin stared at her dumbfounded. Even in the case of overthinking, there was a range a few people could reach, but Wyan, she had surpassed that range as well. Jimin took a step towards her, and then another and another, until she was trapped between him and the short boundary wall behind her. She looked at him and her breath hissed. Hear me out before you overthink more and prepare another speech. She gulped and nodded slowly. He smiled, a real genuine one, and brushed a stray hair away from her face. I know I have been a complete jerk in the last few days. I should have shown up earlier and talked to you. Doesn't matter. I'm here now, and I want to tell you that I have been in love with you for years. There's a good kind of shock, and there's a bad kind of shock, but there's another kind in which your whole body stops functioning and you are staring into nothingness with your breath stuck halfway in your lungs. The last happened with Wyan. She stared up at his face, searching for an ounce of lie, and when she found none, her heart skipped a beat. She expected him to politely reject her, but she hadn't expected him to reciprocate her feelings. She lifted her fingers to his cheek, delicately caressing his face like she was touching a dream. He instantly melted under her warmth of touch, took another step closer until his forehead was pressing against her. I still can't believe this. Jimin took this very chance to turn his face and drop a sweet, chapstick kiss on her cheek. You don't have to. I'm here to make you believe. He whispered softly and met her gaze. In their eyes reflected the calm, peace, and contentment of reaching a state of utter happiness. And there started the waterworks. Warm and thick tears rolled down her cheeks, which she wiped off with a chuckle. I swear I'm not sensitive, but these tears are not stopping. The more she wiped her tears, the more rolled down. Jimin grabbed her hands when she started rubbing her cheeks harshly. She took a glance at him and then tucked herself in his arms, sobbing softly. He didn't take another moment in wrapping his arms around her, a hand rubbing her back and another one gliding through her hair. I love you, she whispered between her soft sobs. Jimin's grip tightened around her as if to ground himself to this dreamy reality. I love you more, baby, and I swear on my life I'll keep you safe, your stomach happy, and your heart full of happiness. No grand gesture, no big words, just honest and sincere promises. I saw Jimin's shoes at the door. Is he home? She asked as soon as she stepped inside with Wyan's father by her side. They set their bags down in the living room and took a seat on the couch. Yeah, he's upstairs confessing his feelings to Wyan. The way his parents squealed had him covering his ears. He looked at them weirdly as they practically beamed like fairy lights. Oh my god, honey, or Jimin and Wyan, what a beautiful couple. While they celebrated their happiness, Yoongi remembered the dinner night when they openly admitted to be cool with his and Jimin's relationship. Just pray that she agrees to a poly relationship. His parents shared confused glances as they had heard of this term for the first time. Well, he's gonna convince her to accept me as Jimin's boyfriend. Wyan and I both will be in a relationship with Jimin and then we will get married, he explained calmly as if he hadn't just created a havoc inside them. They looked horrified. He snorted under his breath. So much for being modern and open-minded. he murmured to himself. A smoke broke out on his lips as he stood up to leave. He took one glance at them. Satisfied with their expression, he pulled out his phone and texted Meena, "Coming over, baby girl, be ready for me."